This 32 on 32 episode focuses on units. Interestingly enough, a team that has gone between Red Reserve to Denial to no organization whatsoever and have kept it that way all the way up until Champs. See why this new roster that consists of an all-European team might just be able to find the favor to not only sit in the second position in Pool C, but potentially, maybe even win it. Rated joins us on this episode, coming right up. COD fans, welcome back. Like I mentioned, we got units coming up for you guys in this one, and like I said in the intro, there's potential this squad very well could win this pool. Why I say that and why we think that might be a case, well, we'll touch on that here in the middle portion of the episode, as we need to, first and foremost, we need to break down who's in the pool to begin with. We FaZe Clan, like we mentioned in the intro. We'll also be dealing with Mazer Gaming, a very notable squad from the North American side, and Animosity Esports, the all-German team coming out of the open bracket with the top 16 finish. Units in specific, you're looking at a roster that consists of Joe and Rated, who've been playing in the CWL the entirety of the year, but Nolson, Weeman, and Cammy have kind of been picked up in pieces throughout the entirety of also the year. Nolson being picked up into Splice at one point in time just previous to Anaheim, and then Weeman and Cammy coming just after, when they've been spending most of their time at Team War. So again, the other thing to kind of keep in mind before we look at this team in specific more closely is the fact that Nolson, Weeman, and Cammy all played on Team War throughout the entirety of the year, for at least for the most part. So that's a lot of familiarity. And when this units team was put together, you will hear from Rated himself. He said that this is potentially the worst team he's played with this year on paper, but the best team that he's played with in actuality. Mostly, I imagine, due to the fact that that trio of Nolson, Weeman, and Cammy have been playing together for just about the entirety of this year previous to them getting picked up to the CWL, mostly together in a unit. So let's take a look at this units time. It's weird to say units as much as I have in this sentence, but let's take a look at this units team in specific. They were a 6th place finisher in Division B, and honestly, it was a win-loss ratio that was mostly benefited by the time that Red Reserve was around. 12 and 25 overall win-loss with a 58 and 93 map win-loss ratio, which is not the greatest thing in the world. And even their placements, well, we're only counting the ones that were when units became units, not counting Red Reserve at Vegas, not counting Red Reserve at Fort Worth, since a lot of that roster had changed. It's London that we saw really the first instance of this team when they were Denial. They were top 16, top 12 at Anaheim, and then another top 16 finish at Miami. A little bit unfortunate as far as how the placements have gone. But that shouldn't really sway you away from why this team, as a number 2 seed, might have the potential of finishing in the top 2 when it comes to this pool in specific. In their hard point, with this roster, they're 5 and 4 overall. And the 194 to 222 average is not incredible, but there have been a lot of games that they've kind of let get away from them where they honestly were in a really good position to win. Search and Destroy, definitively one of their worst modes win-loss ratio-wise, but you take a look at their averages, not terrible. 4.2 rounds average for them, 4.49 average rounds against them. And then the Control, not terrible. 2 and 3, 1.384, 2.57 on average against. A lot of things got to kind of keep in mind when it comes down to those totals. Again, those are abbreviated stats. I didn't want to pull stats from when this team was consisting of more parts than were actually still there. Again, I wanted it to do with this roster since Rostermania, the final one. What was this team able to really put together? You look at their time during the cross-divisional, and they looked great in their hard point specifically. In fact, they only lost 2 games while they were there. It was a 184-250 loss to Luminosity and a 247 loss to 250 to FaZe Clan. It's their Search and Destroy that has been a little bit all over the place. And the only reason why I say all over the place is because they had a number of wins that have been incredible. 6-1 win versus FaZe, 6-3 win versus Luminosity. But then some of their losses have been a little bit more on the lopsided things. 2 different 2-6 losses to Evil Geniuses and Search and Destroy in that best of 5 series that went all the way the distance, and then a 1-6 loss as well to Luminosity in what was a set that only lasted 3 games the first time that they played in the cross div. You then go to their Control, and pretty balanced, a couple of 3-2 wins and then a couple of 1-3 losses. But I want to focus mostly on this team's time when they were at Miami, when they played Luminosity for a second time in about a week and a half. It was a 204-250 loss on hardpoint, a 183-250 loss on hardpoint. Both of those maps had instances where units looked like they could potentially close things out. They find themselves a 6-3 win on Arsenal Search and Destroy before they lost in round 4 on Seaside Control. This is also a team that just before Miami were able to beat FaZe Clan 3-2. That's not bad. Again, their 2 wins that they found during the cross divisional were against UYU, okay, whatever, but also FaZe Clan, and they took Evil Geniuses to Game 5 in another tight one. So this is a team that I think is quietly sitting underneath the radar for reasons that are really not tangible whatsoever. This is a team that honestly, a lot of people are just looking at saying, well, they picked up a bunch of open players, so they're not going to be that good. Those that trio rather of Cammy, Nolson, and Weeman are very good players. It just came down to, can you put them in the right environment to succeed? And honestly, this feels like that environment where they can find that success. You look at Rated in specific, he's obviously listed as mainly the AR role that he typically plays, a .97 rating based on COD Stats DG from the average from the Pro League, and a .98 KD, a very impressive total as mostly a mainstay AR player. Well, I also had a chance to sit down and talk more specifically with Rated about not only the trio of Cammy, Nolson, and Weeman, but also the journey that he and Joe have been able to take since their time getting into the CWL on Red Reserve. Joining me now from Units is Rated, a guy that's been around the scene for some time and, of course, a lot of experience here in the CWL. You have my attention, sir, and we've got ourselves a very interesting team dynamic here because Units, Denial, Red Reserve, everything since the days of old, seemingly of old from the CWL, has been through probably the most collective changes out of every team in the CWL, and you've been a part of all of it. So kind of take me through initially what your reactions to this entire season has been and kind of how you're feeling about this team moving forward to champs.
Well, the year as a whole has been absolutely chaotic, to be honest. Like, I blame Red Reserve for the entire year, to be honest. Like, if Red Reserve weren't being shady and didn't do our old team dirty, like, we would have been able to make the changes we need to become, like, unreal. Like, our team was, like, really good anyway. But if Red weren't fucking about, then our old team just pick up, like, Dylan and Brack or Dylan and Alex, and then the whole year is completely different. But so yeah, I blame Red for the entire year, to be honest, but yeah, you can't really change the past. You just gotta. But I just think like a lot of people don't realize like all the shit that I've went through this year, and like.
Right.
So yeah, but like with the new team, like, it's weird. Like this is on paper the worst team that I've had this year, and it's by far the best team I've had this year. So it just shows you how Black Ops 4 works, really.
100%, and it's interesting because this team in specific, you know, I actually thought that, you know, with there being so many different type of representations in the unit squads from before, it just felt like there was never any kind of synergies. Even watching you guys kind of play around the map, it just felt like there were a lot of individuals like seeing an opportunity and just converting. And now this squad, even though it hasn't been the greatest search and destroy where that's the most evident, you guys have actually looked...
crossover. S&D
right,
was bad
yeah.
at crossover.
Yeah.
S&D was the only thing we won at Miami, so...
And it's still pretty funny because even during that cross-divisional time, you guys technically are doing the best in Respawn as a mode since this roster formed. So it's just interesting to see the dynamic kind of play in there. How much does that play to the tune of Cammy and Weeman coming off of that Team War squad and having familiarity not only with each other, but with you guys as well as a total European team, I guess?
Well, yeah, Nolson was also on Team War. Like, Nolson was on Team War before he subbed in for Splice for that week, and then he was back on Team War afterwards.
Right.
Because this team was literally thrown together literally like one day before roster lock. Like I was joining Mindfreak at one stage, I was joining Midnight at one stage, I was joining a shit ton of different teams. And then we like threw this together, and I literally thought like it was gonna be terrible. Well, not terrible. I knew it'd be alright. But like I never even saw Cammy play before I teamed with him. So like I said on Hot Mic when I did that, I was like, Cammy, like I know Nick's good, I know Weeman's good. I was like, Cammy's just literally a 50-50. Like he's either gonna be really bad or really good. And it's turned out he's actually disgusting, so it's helpful. But I think like this team's just because them three are like playing with me and Joe who have been around forever now, it seems like. But they're just like super eager to learn, and just everyone's on the same page, everybody listens, everybody plays for the team. Whereas throughout the entire year we've had people for the right reasons like trying to join different teams while still being on the team, and then it's just fucked the whole teams up. So it's just like this is the first team where everyone wants to play together and actually win as a team, learn as a team. So I think that's why we're benefiting so much.
And the growth really, I think, has been pretty evidential. I mean, even that set in Miami versus Luminosity, a tough opponent to go up against regardless, but it was a 204-2. Yeah, there was so many moments, I'll say, that you guys were right in there for so many maps. It really felt like you guys were about to give them a run for their money. So when you take the progress you guys have, you're going to be going into Pool C versus FaZe Clan, a relatively solid on paper team in Mazer Gaming. The only time we've seen them play is with 3 days of experience, and then Animosity Esports, this squad out of Germany. So as far as the draw that you guys got, how are you guys feeling about some of your strengths that you've been able to develop over the last couple of weeks against other teams that, you know, either you know or potentially don't know much about at all?
Well, these couple of weeks have been actually super beneficial, so I'd like to thank like Splice and Matty, the owner of Splice. Obviously worked with him on Black Ops 3 when we got to Champs Final, so like they didn't have to help us in any way, but they let the three people from Team War stay in the HQ so we could stay out in the States, which was like, I didn't think it would be that big, but like some of like the little, like, because our hardpoint's still disgusting. Like we beat literally every team we scrub in hardpoint, whoever we play. So like our hardpoint's always going to be fine. But, like our control, when we first got back after Miami, we literally weren't winning a map, and now we're winning either the majority of maps are going 2 and 2. So like the most improvements definitely been in our control. So the last 2 weeks have been very big.
And now going into a squad like FaZe Clan specifically, the history there is, you know, it's pretty established as far as how this team has been able to play. You guys had specifically got a chance to match up against them just previous to Miami, where you went to Game 5 with them. So do you feel like with that experience against this team, it really does play to your favor when it comes to being able to adjust and maybe take them the distance, if not potentially find a sneaky win versus them in the pools?
I don't think it'd be too sneaky. Like you said, we beat them, and that was like you said, similar to the Mazer thing where they only had 3 days practice. We didn't scrim a single time before that cross divisional play. Like we literally didn't play. I played a different role because obviously I'm full-time Maddox now. So like that week we beat FaZe that week with 0 practice. So obviously our chances are better now to beat them, but I also think they're a lot better than they were then. So it's 2 different things, but. Against them, I think we're both really good at hardpoint, so I think the control is probably going to decide it, because I think S&D will probably be like 50-50 with the most time on this game, to be honest. Like, besides Genji, I think against every other team is like 50-50 S&D on this game. So I think whoever wins the control is going to be in a really good spot in that series. And then Mazer, I just don't think they're very good, so I don't really care about them. I think we'll be top 2 minimum in this pool.
Fair enough.
And then the Germans, I'd literally, if we lose to the Germans, then I may as well just go home. Yeah, I think S&FaZe will be very comfortable in this group.
Fair enough. It's going to be interesting to see. Reese, thank you so much for taking the time, man. A pleasure to meet you. Pleasure having you on, and good to kind of hear some information about the guys that are finding themselves some good favor being with the Splice guys, giving some NA time. So hopefully you guys are able to take those things in stride and come out to Pool C looking hot.
Dude, that's the plan anyway. I'm due a good event after all the stress this year.
That's absolutely true. If anyone deserves it, it's definitely you and Joe. So take care, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Again, another big shout out to Reese for hanging out with me, and pleasure to meet you as always, my dude. We've kind of traded DMs back and forth throughout some parts of the season, talking stats and talking things like that. It's always good to kind of hear more from him. A very smart mind for the game and a very talented player, and a lot of confidence going into this one about how units might, in fact, be able to finish not only top 2, but potentially even win their pool. And I think that potential is absolutely there. Again, you look back on it, FaZe Clan is probably their biggest test for sure, simply because of the fact that they're FaZe Clan. Now, again, you mentioned him say it, the fact that units had played up against them with not many days of practice beforehand, and FaZe Clan looked a little bit off that week. But then you also look at Mazer Gaming, kind of the same situation. They finished top 3 in the open bracket with not a lot of practice, and he's sitting there saying that there should be no reason that units should lose to Mazer Gaming. And to kind of just re-hit on that token and idea, it kind of comes down to the same conversation when you were looking at like when the Alabama football team won those 2 world championships back and forth, and the Jacksonville Jaguars had maybe won 3 games total in those 2 years, and they're sitting there saying, well, the Alabama football team could beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. That there's a different level of practice and preparation and understanding and awareness that comes with being a professional team than it does an open team. So even though you still have a handful of players that like Spacely and Parzellian and Jetly that have CWL experience, it's going to be a very tight game, I think, between them and units. And then to finish things off, Animosity Esports, again, you don't feel very highly about their odds as the German team, who are not getting very great practice at the moment. And the fact that Units were able to help kind of share some time with Splice for Nolson, Weeman, and Cammy for getting some online practice at North America, not just being stuck remotely in the UK, is great for Units when it comes down to their preparation. Just comes down to, will they get the same level of practice that a team like FaZe Clan will when they do their little pre-camp. So should be an interesting one. Definitely keep your eyes out on Pool C. That's the wrap down on Units. We'll be looking into Mazer Gaming and Animosity to follow things up here in just a small moment. So if you're not already subscribed to the channel, make sure you do that. And hey, how about this? Let's do something different. If you're enjoying this type of content, go out there and just tweet the video. Tweet it out there. Just say, hey, take a look at this. This guy's doing this. If you guys are really enjoying it, that support goes a long, long way. I hear so much positive feedback about this series from you guys. It just obviously not getting the views that normally I would like to see. But let's go ahead and just get the exposure out there for this type of series. I think there's a lot of value built into it, and you guys seem to be thinking the same thing. So if you're out there and you're feeling frisky, get on Twitter. Go ahead and @ me. I'll make sure to give you guys some love, and who knows, maybe we'll do something for that in the future as well. But that's going to conclude things here for the Units. We'll catch you guys for the next one. Until then, hope you keep holding it down. Later. Bye-bye.